My name is Emily Poirier, and I'm the head of short film here at FNC, and I'll be your host for this Q&A. So you just watched the program number 3 from the international competition. In this program, you've watched L'Effort Commercial from Sarah Arnold, Sudden Light by Sophie Littman, Motorway 65 by Evi Kalogiropoulou, Filipiñana from Rafael Manuel Mendoza, and Menarca from Lillah, Halla. So with us today for the Q&A, we have Sophie Littman. Hey. We have Evi Kalogiropoulou.
Hello.
We have Rafael Manuel Mendoza.
Hello.
And we have Lillah, Halla.
Hello.
So first of all, thank you guys for accepting our invitation. I know it's weird to not present your film like physically, and during COVID it's really weird, and we would be happy to have you with us. So thank you so much for doing this online Q&A. So the first general question, I just want to ask you to introduce yourself, your practice as a filmmaker, and the film that we are showing here. So we will start in all the same order. So first one is Sophie.
So hi, I'm Sophie Littman, or Sophie, and showing Sudden Light, which is a film about two sisters who take their dog for a walk around the fields near their house. But out there, the landscape starts to trick them and morph around them. And I never want to say too much to give away, so I'll stop there. But yeah.
And is it your first film, second film,
It's my first film of this scale, I would say. Yeah, my first sort of more narrative short. I think before my work's been a bit more experimental.
More experimental.
A smaller scale as well, I think. So, yeah.
Perfect. Same question to Evi.
Hello, I'm Evi. I'm a visual artist, and this is my first short film. And Motorway 65 is about two siblings live in an industrial town of Elefsina. Elefsina is a town next to Athens, like 20 minutes. A big industrial city. And speaks about the bridge which connect their neighborhood to the two siblings, inhabited mostly by Black Sea Greeks, to an area inhabited by immigrants of varied background. And we can see social division give rise to hostility reflected in the local sports scene and the two siblings' relationship.
Thank you.
Did you get at the beginning because it was a bit...
No, it's okay, perfect. Thank you. So, turn up to Rafael.
Oh, yeah, hi, I'm Rafael Manuel. I'm a filmmaker that's from the Philippines, but I'm currently based in England. Filipiñana was my graduation film from the London Film School, and it's a film about the golf course and country club milieu in the Philippines. And it explores that particular milieu through through the perspective of one of the more marginalized, I guess, the entities within that milieu, a T-girl. So in the Philippines, when golfers practice hitting their golf balls, there are these girls whose job it is to spend the whole day seated on a stool, barely a foot above the dirt ground, serving golf balls. So they sit down and they give golf balls for the golfers to hit. And so I kind of explore this world through her eyes, through one of these T-girls' eyes.
Thank you, Rafael. Now the time of Lillah.
I am Lillah. I'm a filmmaker from Brazil, and the film I'm presenting here is Menarca. It's played in a small fisherman village in Brazil, where those two girls, learn about an imaginary way of protecting themselves against violence that is becoming closer and closer to them. And yeah, I guess it's a film about how imagination can be a form of resistance.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
So the second more generic or general question is what interests you like in fiction and cinema as a first, and are you more focused on like the visual aspect of cinema, like in filmmaking, like art directing or styling or cinematography, or are you more your priority are more with the actors interaction, or is it what, and also like what is your relation to sound design and like soundtrack and music? Is it part of like your creative process? So like in a big picture, like why is fictional cinema kind of your outlet? So we'll start back with Sophie.
I don't like going first. Okay, so I think I'm really interested in psychological landscapes of the characters manifesting themselves in the physical surroundings within the geography of the film. So yeah, so like with Sudden Light, it's very much about the expectation or anticipation of grief, and so the girls are in this limbo state, so the landscape that keeps shifting and morphing and tricking them is a reflection of what's the sort of separation between internal and external gets quite slippery within the film, so you can't tell what is happening around them, whether it's in the main character's head or what's around. And I think that, trying to remember the latter part of the question, sorry.
But what is more important for you, like in filmmaking, which like it's more the visual, the sound, like what is
I guess, oh, sorry. I guess a sort of cohesive, all of those things. I mean, it's really important. I spend a lot of time with the actors, but also the visual aspect is like super important, and sound design is really important to me as well. So especially with Sudden Light, a lot of the sound design is quite indicative of moments to come, as in it actually almost feeds as a character in itself, as in the characters are reacting to the sound design that's completely like not diegetic at all. Yeah. So yeah, I'd say sound design is really important. But yeah, all of the things, all of the elements.
Also, is like writing a big part of your process, or it's more like on set that you're doing like more improvisation or something, or it's like everything is well written way beforehand?
I think both, because I like to have everything really well written, but then I just fully understand and expect that once we're filming, things will change and things will feel better, and yeah, different things that I always imagine are going to be great end up taking a completely different turn, and well, things that I've written, the best plans, always there seems like something better in the moment. So I think it's a bit of both.
Bit of both. Okay, thank you. We'll have the same big question to Evi.
For me, I guess it's very important the location and the atmosphere of the area. And after I create the script, because in this area, which I shoot the short film, I was living there for 3 months for a residency, and it's very hard city in terms of it's very industrial. A lot of factories around, and quite masculine city, old school a bit. And for me, it was very important to live there for some periods, and because I used to the movie a lot of elements of documentary, it's important being there and having the experience by myself. And another part is that apart from 2 actors or 3, all the other people playing themselves in my movie. Okay. And generally it's my practice, like combining both professional actors and
non-actors,
people from the area where I want to shoot. For example, in my film, there are some kickboxers, and they are the kickboxer which I used to train also in this area. So I use a lot of elements of my life in the place where I want to shoot. And a lot of things from my background, like speaks about like a lot about female empowerment through sports, social division, has to do for my life and how I grew up in a way. And visual, of course, it's important because I'm a visual. I studied first fine art, and after I did video art and filmmaking. So yeah, they're both very important. The script is also very important.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the first thing is to have the atmosphere and the story which I want to say in this atmosphere,
mm-hmm.
and the place. Of course, sound design. I think everything.
Everything, yeah.
Also, color is important. In a professional level, everything is important. If you do it by yourself, you can improvise, but it's not this case.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can go to the same question, Rafael.
So I guess for me, I guess the first question was why fiction as the outlet, and I came from a philosophy and a visual communications background. That's what I studied in university, and I did about like 8 years in advertising. You know, like that's when I kind of like came to grips with the power of the medium of I guess not film but like of mass communication, of mass media. And truthfully, I guess with advertising it wasn't really for me, because kind of the themes that I had to explore and the stories I had to tell just felt very contrived, because they were always within a certain brief. And so I kind of saved up for 3 years and planned my escape from advertising and went to film school, where I felt like, I mean, not to shit on advertising or to hate on advertising, but you know, because I felt like it taught me a lot in terms of, you know, my craft and the craft that I practice now. But I felt now I feel a bit more or free and a bit more autonomy to explore the themes that I want to explore, regardless of market pressures and all that. And moving on to the next question of if there is any particular, I guess, part of the collage or like the montage of cinema that I favor more than the other. Um, I think for me, I also come from a musical background, and I try to, because for me, music is one of, like, it's a very powerful art in that it's very tactile and very emotional in terms of feelings. When you listen to music and you hear it, you feel it. And that's what I am trying to get out of cinema. But like, it's weird because coming from musical background, I also don't like putting music in my films unless it's completely diegetic and it's written into the script. So like in my film, like I try to use a song to kind of bring forward a narrative, a narrative arc. Because also I feel like in my films as well, the structures are very loose. And so I rely on aesthetic as well as sound and music to bring it all together and to act as a sort of anchor point.
Thank you. So same question for Lillah.
So why fiction cinema? I think that is a really powerful window of imagination, of connection, of catharsis, of connection to the imagination of the other. So I guess, that's what is so incredible about it. But in the case of Menarca, if I think about specific areas in which there was like more focus, or I would say because we departed the story from myths. The script writing was definitely a very important, deep and long process of research, of trial and errors, and till we really found like the essence of the story we wanted to tell, departing from those myths and like subverting the logic of those myths. But then as the text becomes a film, everything matters. So The casting is absolutely important in the film. The music is absolutely important. The image is now the location. So I wouldn't, as we start from the texting to the film, I wouldn't prioritize. I would say it comes then, from all this multi-sensorial sources that come together into the film.
Cool, thanks. I'll go into more specifics. I'll come back to Sophie. Can you explain like what inspired you this story, like of landscape and grief and these girls that are there and they don't know what like that man is doing there? Like what inspired you to create that ambiance, that like, and that story?
I guess it started, I wanted to make a film about two sisters that were coming to terms with the fact that their dad was about to die. And then, it just sort of started from there. And then not to repeat myself, but like, I'm just like really interested in the idea of a landscape physically reflecting what the characters are going through. And so from there, it just sort of, started to snowball on. I really wanted to create this atmosphere and sense of dread, but trying to capture that sense when you know something absolutely awful is about to happen, but there's no way that you can prepare for it and you can't get your head around it, and just all of these feelings. So that was where that started to come from.
And it's kind of inevitable. Like we feel that like something is happening as a public. We feel it. It's almost like a thriller. We don't know what like will happen, but we feel all of this. So this is well like put it in this way, but at the same time you're not too precise about what will happen, and like you don't like put on the viewer like things to think or not to think. So it's really interesting that like it's not that much dialogue, that much like people speaking, it's more feelings. Is it something like deliberate that you wanted to like discover in your filmmaking?
I would say so. And also it's thank you. Because it's so nice to hear whether that is successful or not, because so much of it is about the atmosphere and this sense of dread and foreboding. And so it's really, really nice to hear that it is making you feel tense and that you're not necessarily certain where this sort of threat is coming from. But definitely. I'm really interested in sort of sentient spaces as well that have their own motives. So I definitely wanted to give the feeling that this area, something that was once familiar, is now really changeable and scary and has its own motive, I guess. So it's reactive to both the girls' knowledge. So when it separates them, it's because Mia, the older girl, has more of an awareness of what's going on, whereas the younger one is spat out elsewhere. That was definitely something that I wanted to explore. It's something that I've been exploring through other work in the past, so it's quite nice to be able to see it in a narrative sense. Because I come from a fine art background as well. It's something that I've been interested in for a really long time. It was quite cool to marry that with what I felt was a more narrative story.
And did you love this passage, like to fine art kind of more experimental background to the narrative form? Like, how do you like it? It will be like something that you continue or not?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that this is the space within which I'm, and then currently working on a new short that's in what I feel is a step in an even more narrative direction. It's just been, I started making video works whilst I was at art college, and then it's just sort of been like a gradual step forward each time. It's been a nice process.
Thank you. So Evie, like for motorway, it's so interesting because I see like the story has so many layers. Like you have like the bridge that separate like two population. You have the racial indifferences, and also you have like the family on top of this, and the sport and the factory. And I was like wondering like, is it like from your own story, like the brother and sisterhood, or it's like how did you construct this story that is also like so personal and also political at the same time?
It's not my personal story. It's a story from other people from the area, but I changed it a bit. But it's not exactly that. It has to do with many stories and many facts that I have heard when I was there. Sorry?
From the place there, like.
Yes, because the place is very important. It has many difficulties, as you see. Like it's very difficult city, and from the stories from the factory that there were two women die in the past. All these stories I connected to this story, to the main story of the siblings, which is it's a true story in a way. This about the two siblings. What was the question? If it was true, it wasn't my personal, but has to do a lot of my background, as I told you, because I was a sport girl. Yes, I was a sport girl. Some other difficulties like about exclusion, I would say. Yes, and it's my life in Athens, let's say, and it's Athens in 2020 with all these problems. It's a quite patriarchal country. We're in Balkans. We have passed crisis, economical crisis, and again the same one. We have the refugee crisis coming. So it's to live here has many layers by itself. It's not it's everything. So I think the story represents also the atmosphere of Greece in a way, like how it's to be a woman in 2020 in Greece, because they haven't changed many things. It's totally different. Like because I live between London and not Greece, it's totally different. Me being in London as a woman artist, and totally different to be in Greece. Imagine, for example, in the fine art school which I study, it wasn't any woman teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's not so many women programmer either.
Grammar. For what?
Programmer like myself, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand. So you are more reflecting on what's like 2018 to like what is the feel of the moment, like exclusion, the place of the woman and the family. Like you are like a thermometer of like the life we are living right now. Like. So you wanted to represent that, yeah. It's really interesting, and I really like how you integrated the sport in this. Like, I think, like, have you thought about like the analogy with everything, like to include the sport at the end, the fighting and everything that reflects on the social thing that you were showing before?
It's because these people are from this area, and also like in this area, it's quite difficult to live from there, or you become mostly a worker or something. So for these people that they have diverse background, it's kind of a way to not survive, but to have them, to have something in their lives important, because most of them they are champions of Greece, kickboxers, and it's interesting in this environment how you want your body also, and how you feel the environment through the sports in a social level.
Okay, thank you.
I'm thinking what.
Yeah, I know.
For example, sorry?
There are so many layers in your film about like society and like everything. So I know it's like kind of everything together is so intricate, but yeah, it's really interesting how you showed it like also like on a personal level, on the identity level, on the woman that like at the end is like kissing her friend. Like it's kind of a good reflection of the world that we are living right now. Like that everything is kind of not messy, but like people want to talk, but they are separate, and like all of this paradox that are here. So yeah.
Yeah, because I guess globally we are in a bad situation, I would say, like things going conservative and much more conservative. Trump will be elected again. I mean, you cannot be very happy, and you know.
Yeah,
and also Europe going, it's getting more conservative and more.
and in the more like visual way in your film, like how did you approach how you wanted to film these people? Because you could have been more documentary or more like I say like symbolic. Like how did you approach the visual like way of filming this city and this environment?
I was living there, so this was the location I found myself, and I was with my car all day, and I was waiting. And for example, there were many from videos from the people that I did kickboxing. Like some of them, they used to train next to the factories next to the sea. So some shots or some pictures, they are a bit, you know, close to what I have seen in pictures from them. I think, yes. For me, it was important to be always a bit dominant, also the factory.
Mm-hmm.
They coexist for the factory, the sport, and the woman. I mean, these kind of layers. Because to be a woman worker there, it has to be pretty difficult, I guess. Yeah, but the location was the first, with the stories, it was the first thing I had. And when I came back to the city, I already know which location I want.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was, it was this location made the story in a way, the factory.
But why go to a more polished look than the documentary look? Because it's like people are really beautiful in your film. It's not like
Really?
yeah. Like, and the cinematography is really beautiful too. It's not like rash and rough, like it's polished, it's beautiful. So why? And like the sun there, like the city, like still it's industrial, but like the feel and the look of the film is more like soft and kind to them in a way.
I guess I like this visual contradiction.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because otherwise it will be just a dog fic story.
Yeah.
I like this kind of it's more interesting also to follow the story with this contradiction, I think, and to also think more layers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And also it's a for me it was a bit true, you know, like the rapper in the end.
Yeah.
Is a friend of me also, and I mean he wear these clothes, these colorful clothes. I mean, and people are like that, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
And many of them, they were friends from my film. That's why I'm happy you say they're beautiful.
They are, yeah. Tell them that, like, they're beautiful.
It's how you should also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So thank you so much. We'll follow with Rafael. Like, when you mentioned you worked in advertising, I think for me, like maybe it show in your aesthetic sense, like in your film, it's so well shot and like everything is I think every frame is well thought and like well placed. Can you speak about like your approach to cinematography and art direction in that film?
Oh, well, thank you. Definitely a team effort. I have a really good working relationship with my cinematographer, with my DP, Senya Patricia. She's this young emerging German cinematographer that I met in film school, and we've been inseparable since meeting. We really just got each other, and I feel like it shows on screen. I guess like when you talk about like the shots like saying a lot, I suppose it helps that we can do that because we have very few shots in our films usually.
Yeah.
This is partly to do with budget because I like to maximize the budget that we have. So I like to fill the frames, and I like frames to develop within themselves. Also, it also helps that we use 4x3, so that even gives us even less room to and for more of our production to be in that space. Also 4x3, we chose that because we felt that I think a lot of people were telling us the obvious choice for, you know, the kind of setting that we're shooting with like the vast expanse of a golf course. They wonder why we then go anamorphic, right? But then for me, it's like what we lost in width, we gained in verticality.
Yeah.
And we felt that was a good kind of like form within itself to talk about social structure within the milieu. I think another thing with our aesthetic was the very restrained use of color. I felt that we were very influenced by like the photography of like Evelyn Benchikova or Harry Gruyere, and we really thought that kind of by restricting the use of color, it helps in kind of getting across the absurdist tone that we wanted to portray. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And what brought you to think about speaking about social like ladder, but through the T-girl's eyes? Like where did you find that story?
Well, the first point was I definitely wanted to make, coming from the Philippines, I'm very much a Filipino filmmaker, and on all the stories I write, regardless of what they're set, they're about the Philippines. And I wanted, and it's impossible to talk about the Philippines without talking about the vast social divide that's inherent in the Philippines. I mean, it's part of our colonial wounds. But also as a Filipino filmmaker, I wanted to try as much as possible to step away from the current aesthetic and the current paradigm that comes out of the Philippines, and that most Westerners are familiar with, which is very poverty porn related. And I kind of wanted to take a step away from that and not to talk about a violence that is very obvious with clear perpetrators and clear victims. Instead, I wanted to talk about a more invisible structural kind of violence that's in the process of becoming normalized and gentrified. Because I think that's, for me at least, that's a more interesting violence to explore.
Yeah.
And why I thought about the golf course is because, well, I guess it's beyond all like the social political themes that I want to tackle. Inherently, I feel like it's a very personal film and I wanted to take a look at my role in the inequality that's being propagated in the Philippines, because I guess I've been playing golf since I was 4 years old, so it's a world that I'm very much familiar with. The country club that we shot in, actually, like, I mean, like I've been there every day, like since I was 4 years old. So it's a world I really know. My father was the president of the country club at one point.
So you're used to these world, yeah. Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And you shot everything in Philippines. Like, how was your casting there? Like, and how you get like these wonderful actress and like for the karaoke scene and everything. Like, it's really magic. So, how did you get to find these people?
A lot of time. I spent about 2 months casting. I saw over 200 girls. But it was okay because I was looking for one girl for the lead, and then all the other actresses that I met and I had the connection with, we worked together in the peripheral roles.
Oh.
So I mean, when Lucrecia Martel casts your film, she sees like 2,000 actresses, and well, granted they're features, but like that's something I aspire to. Because also I find casting very a very fruitful and very stimulating process in filmmaking, because a lot of my writing is done after I cast and during casting and during rehearsals. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Thank you so much, Rafael. So we'll go with Lillah. your film is really interesting and powerful, like in a sense that like you see these women and they are trying to protect themselves like from this violence. So I wanted to first know like why did you think about like that story with like these fishes and how they represent like violence and their means to get out of that. So how did you write this script?
Maybe we can start by the title, because
Yeah.
Menarca is like menarche in English is like the first period of a woman. So it is a film that is speaking about what it takes to become a woman in this context, what it means to grow up in this context. And so it is a rite of initiation, what they're doing. We were departing from the myth of the vagina dentata, and this idea of this fear of castration through teeth, and this idea of this monstrous feminine with teeth and bites, and of course the piranha as a Brazilian fish, like which is populating the imagination also in this castration fear, fits really well together. No? This idea of castration and teeth. And there's one extra thing to that, which is really fascinating, and that's how this story was born. Piranha in Portuguese is not only the fish, but it is also an adjective, like a pejorative adjective to a bitch, to a woman whose sexuality is empowered or free or polygamous. Or if a woman is going to be offended by the way she chooses to have her sexuality, she's a piranha. So of course this was extremely fascinating material for us to work in this myth, and that's how this violence is then created through those teeth, and the power or the tool to revert or subvert this violence is also on the teeth of the piranha.
And why go to like this story like with kind of a surrealism vibe or like a dreamy vibe? Why did you went in that choice?
Because this is not this is about power of imagination. This is not about literal solutions or literal tools to subversion and transformation of realities. It is symbolic. It is about the symbolic power that imagination can have into changing things. So yeah, I think that fits. You think that doesn't fit?
Oh no, that fits. Totally. Everything is well fit.
I wonder if there would even be like another way of
to do it.
Maybe it would be really trashy.
And I was wondering also, because it looks like, for me as a viewer, like I feel like your film was really well written before. Like, have you surprises on set? Like, what have you changed some path that you were going to? Like, what?
It was both. It was really written since the beginning because the story was so important, but all the time, just from the casting process with the girls and how we were during the rehearsals, we were trying to find this common language among us, among me and the three of them. So we would do a lot of choreographies. And they would bring their pop music, the things they would like to listen to, and we would spend like hours just playing animals in the room or dancing or making choreographies together. And that's how, on one hand, they became really close. And on the other hand, we were creating this partiture. I don't know if this is a word in English, but like this, this composition of different notes, different movements and things we had in common. And the final scene, as well as the pier scene in which they're dancing from far away, this is all things that kind of came out in the rehearsal processes. And it's them making those animals. So every time we had some time in the shooting, and we could just like at the end of an afternoon or so, we would go to those piers and they would practice some of the stuff we've been training. And this is the end. These are two of the really important sequences in the film. So yes, it's been like also arriving there, magical things happen, like that truck, I don't know how to say this in English, but this tractor that has the big teeth, like carving the earth. This is totally the image of the myth we're working with. And of course, we would never have money in this film to just hire such a truck. It was just there. So we just shot it and brought it in. So both, I would say. It's serendipity is also like a big part of, you just need to keep your eyes open also, and ears. No?
It's really interesting because I wanted to say that like the connection between the cast is completely fantastic. For me, I felt that they know each other for a long time. So I was like, how did you create this magic? Like it's really interesting. And also like, can you speak about like is the sound was really already in your writing, or at the end, like when you add everything, you're like, oh my god, I can do so much more with the sound there and everything? Like, how did you approach your soundtrack and your sound for this film?
Having a very deep collaboration with an incredible sound person who's Ruben Valdez, an incredible musician who's Karina Boer. So like finding the team was a very important part. But some of it we didn't know. For example, we didn't know how the piranhas or even how the vagina dentata would sound in the film. Like, how can you do this without having this being super trashy? Or how can you really like construct some kind of suspense without being too heavy or too cheesy or too? It's really hard to materialize something so imaginary. Like it's. And that's how, like, this is something I learned in film school, like maybe the first year. Like, you don't show your monster, you know, like you kill completely the suspense around it. So how would the piranha sound? We didn't know. We were experimenting a lot. I think it was the short film with the most complex sound editing.
Because it's not cheesy at all, and it could have been like, to make that sound for these fishes and everything, it's like it could have been cheesy, but like it's not. It's dark and it's like, oh, I'm scared, like.
And then Ruben was like, because we didn't know how it would sound, and then Ruben was like trying out. Sometimes he would send me through WhatsApp like, I just tried this teeth, I don't know the word in English for that, but like teeth biting together. I try to put this together with this other sound. Listen to this. And we're like, that is abstract enough not to be too obvious. Like at the same time, it creates this, like the sound of the dentist, you know, it creates something that gives you like the creeps. So that is, let's try in this direction. So some of the things, to tell you the truth, they weren't written and thought from the beginning. We didn't have answers to how, and especially in the construction of this monster, because monster deity, Balbo, the creature. When I say monster, I don't say this in an offensive way. I say monster. No. Etymologically, monster,
like the figure of the monster,
the idea of this creature that comes to show, to mostrare, to show you something, and we couldn't materialize this deity too much, so sound became this extremely important tool. And then when after all the sound editing, when we finally started composing the soundtrack, Karina, the singer, started doing these incredible voice stretches, and this is also something that we brought into the creature. So so yeah, apart from teeth and it also has some of the voice of the musician who made the soundtrack.
Thank you so much, Lillah.
You're welcome.
Evi's not there, but like I wanted to ask you guys, do you have any last word you want to share with the public about your film? Like, is there something you want to add? No? Everyone has the eyes up in the air. But thank you so much for being here with us to discuss your film. And also it was a pleasure for us to present them together in this program. So we're really happy. And if you like this program, please don't be shy and share it on social media. Everything will be online until October 31st. So feel free to discover other films and program on the FNC platform. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.